All right, another case of
The Last American Podcast.
The Last American Podcast. Can you believe it?
Episode 3.
I know, it just keeps going.
It just won't end.
No one's stopping us. It's really out of control right now.
George Bush rookie card! Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Mr. September himself! Holy
Please comment. please comment.
I don't know. We're going. So we got, the typical things right now going on. California, I feel like we talk about this every episode. The homeless. Always and forever, the homeless.
Well, I think the most dishonest labels is calling the crisis a homeless crisis. Homeless, to me, implies you want to actually have a home. What we're really dealing with here is a drug abuse and mental illness issue on a scale we've never seen before. But our public officials want to call it homelessness, and the solution is to throw a lot of money at, or an ideology they call housing first. We're seeing unit costs between $700,000 to $800,000 per unit. It doesn't even have a kitchen. This whole idea that they're going to build their way out of it is insane. But it's also the kind of this lack of personal accountability. We're going to give you a close to $1 million beach condo without asking you to go to rehab, without asking you to take even the smallest step towards recovery. It doesn't seem like in California any of our elected officials or the sort of influencers and powers that be want anyone to actually get better. They just want to throw more money at it. If you can't even talk about what the cause of the problem is, if you can't mention the drug addiction and the mental illness going untreated, how are you ever going to fix the problem?
Well, we're building them. What's funny is they say they cost $800,000, but they're like sheds you could buy at Home Depot for like $10K. So I'm not seeing.
This is in Los Angeles, downtown.
Where the cost gets. Oh, we actually have them here, local to us in Hermosa Beach. We actually have a couple over by the police
Which
station.
would make more sense why they would cost that much, but they're building them all over, and it's costing us $1 trillion for us to build a bunch of sheds.
Yeah.
For the homeless, for them to, as per se, the problem they keep saying is that they're homeless. They're not homeless. They're mentally ill, on drugs, screaming at the sky, violent, and sometimes they don't want to be inside, right?
When you're that far gone, I mean, you don't know what's going on. So being inside or outside.
There's a whole movie where Jamie Foxx plays a violinist that is terrified of going inside a building.
Yeah.
Even though he's a professional cello player. And that's the premise of the story. Is they keep trying to put him in this house and he's just flips out every time he goes in there. And so how are we gonna fix the problem? It's not with building sheds that cost $800,000 a piece.
I mean, that's a pretty expensive shed, but to me the bigger problem is, they're all going to catch on fire. The one thing I see with all these homeless encampments is they just tend to catch on fire.
Well, it's not like they catch on. I like how not to bring this up about the fire. They're like, oh, all these fires are starting. How are these fires starting? It's either the electric company or people are literally trying to burn down the state. Now these houses are just catching on fire. These people are crazy.
Well, they're just doing drugs.
They do
pass
drugs,
out and then they catch.
They leave their
pipe on something.
They're using the stove to make illegal drugs, right? And then something happens and it burns them, and then their whole house is on fire. Or they just like fire and they just like to set things on fire. It would be cool if their curtains were on fire and then the whole house goes up. And by the whole house, I mean the shed.
$50,000 curtains.
Yeah.
Bureaucracy at its finest right there.
There's nothing to say about the homeless. It's forever a problem, and there's more coming every day. So, and California's just a part. There's Seattle, Portland. It just never ends. What's wrong with Canada?
Canada's communist. Canada's crazy. They're fucked. They got to get rid of that guy.
If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train beside vaccinated people and put them at risk.
My responsibility was to keep as many Canadians alive as possible. And therefore, while not forcing anyone to get vaccinated.
The erosion of faith in politicians and media is at an all-time high. People are just starting to wake up to how fucking insane this world is organized and run.
Everyone needs to get vaccinated, and those people are putting us all at risk.
I liked him before the pandemic.
Trudeau?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's like good looking guy, confident, good talker.
Yeah.
And then during the pandemic, I'm like, oh, you're a fucking dictator.
I mean, so Justin Trudeau, I liked him when he first came out. You know, he's a snowboarder. He actually has a great method. Insert the clip of Justin Trudeau doing a method right here, because he has a suspect method. And as soon as I saw his method, as soon as I saw his method, I was like, is he a snowboarder or is he just touching his heels? You know? And then immediately after that, he immediately became a dictator, and I was like, I knew I didn't like that method grab. And you know, I was like, this guy was faking the funk.
It took a long time for people to see that this guy is like out of control.
Yeah.
Like out of control. Like this guy's a nutcase. He turned off people's accounts during the trucker protest.
Yeah.
Like he froze them out with their own money. And the trucker protest was just like a bunch of blue collar people.
Yeah.
Like they weren't like trying to overthrow the government.
Well, they kind of were trying to stop.
What's funny is that this happened in the Netherlands, and then they got elected into government, and then they're actually the most powerful political party. And in Canada,
well, Justin Trudeau ruled at the end of the day.
Exactly. That's the difference. Is that Canada isn't a free state, and I'm sorry to break it to you, but you can go to jail for saying the wrong things on TV. You can go to jail for saying the wrong things on the internet.
You go for jail not getting vaccinated.
Yeah, exactly.
It was a very.
Didn't expect that. Just recently, they banned all handguns. All of them. Everything. All guns.
We're introducing legislation to implement a national freeze on handgun ownership. What this means is that it will no longer be possible to buy, sell, transfer, or import handguns anywhere in Canada. In other words, we're capping the market for handguns. We're also fighting gun smuggling and trafficking by increasing maximum criminal penalties and providing more tools for law enforcement to investigate firearm crimes. And we'll require the permanent alteration of long gun magazines so they can never hold more than 5 rounds. These are actions that doctors, experts, and chiefs of police have been calling for years, and we're acting on their advice.
So what do they have now? Just hunting rifles?
Just hunting rifles. And you have to have like a special permit to have one. And so not just banning the sale.
Like bolt action here
probably.
Or what about semi-automatic?
I don't know.
What about bolt fed?
Yeah.
what about belt fed?
Yeah, belt fed. What about belt fed
hunting rifles?
Yeah, exactly. I heard that it's not only illegal to buy them from a store, it's illegal to trade them, to pass them down from your grandparents. So if you had like a Beretta from like the World War II, you could not pass it down.
What did Canada do in World War II?
They were just the America Part 2. Okay. You know, the same thing they always do, which is nothing. Okay, Canada, no one wants to talk about it. Should Biden be in jail?
Joe Biden's son, Joe Biden's brother, Joe Biden's brother's wife, Hunter Biden's girlfriend or Beau Biden's widow, however you wanted to write that, Hunter Biden's ex-wife, Hunter Biden's current wife, and 3 children of the president's son and the president's brother. So we're talking about a grandchild. That's odd. Most people that work hard every day's grandchild doesn't get a wire from a foreign national or anything like that.
Like, should he be in jail? Like, he's the president currently, but if you read the tea leaves, him and his entire family has been getting money from every government under the sun during when he was the senator, during when he was the vice president, probably pretty currently, including Hunter Biden going on TV and saying, "Why are you making so much money?" He goes, "I don't know." And they're like, "Do you know anything about Ukrainian gas companies?" He's like, "No."
You didn't have any extensive knowledge about natural gas or Ukraine itself, though.
No, but I think that I had as much knowledge as anybody else that was on the board.
If your last name wasn't Biden, do you think you would have been asked to be on the board of Burisma?
I don't know. I don't know. Probably not. I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life that if my last name wasn't Biden.
If my last name's Biden, that's it.
I didn't know who was paying him from that Instagram video, but then the other thing I really didn't know that was brought to light was Beau Biden's ex-wife, or Beau Biden's
he died.
widow.
He died.
And then she got with
Hunter Biden on crack cocaine. He somehow got with the widow of his brother, and then
someone should investigate that. And that needs to be investigated.
It's so crazy. Okay, and currently Hunter Biden has another woman. I thought it was a prostitute that has this other illegitimate kid that they are trying to erase from down the memory hole.
Well, you could just wire him money.
But she is suing him, and the government and the media has not covered this story at all. Like, it is going crazy in the Biden family, and the media doesn't want to hear anything.
We need some sort of mass government reform. I mean, this has just kind of gone on too long, and like really, there's some interesting things happening, and people need to be held accountable.
There's no accountability, and so we're just gonna continue on.
Actually, speaking of being accountable, you know who was recently accountable?
Who?
Gavin Newsom.
Oh my God.
California was supposed to give out.
Trudeau of
California was supposed to recently give out reparations checks, and I was excited being a young African American man myself.
Exactly.
And Gavin Newsom's racism stopped the reparation checks.
Oh my God!
I
always knew that he was a racist.
I kind of had the feeling that he was a racist. As soon as the homeless encampments didn't cost $1.5 million, I thought racism had something to do with
another thing was that he was in his winery during the pandemic, completely skirting all the things he made everyone else do. And I was like, you know what? He's not actually doing something that is really what a person of color would do. He's really yucking it up like a wasp right now. Like, he's really tooting his own horn at his winery. Come on, people. So, California, the reparations, he put an end to it. I don't know. First of all, no one saw it coming. Yeah, and then the new tea leaves came down that they're like, oh, California's in more debt than you thought it was.
I was so surprised to find out California was in debt. I was really shocked. I was shocked to find out California was in debt.
You're like, wait, we're not doing reparations and California's in debt? So, like...
But we just gave all the homeless people $1 million sheds. What do you mean?
California just print their own money?
We'll touch on that later.
Okay. All right. 100% sure. Wuhan? Really? The lab? Really? Is that where the leak came from? The lab.
There's a chance that this was created in a lab. There's an investigation.
A chance? The disease is the same name as the lab. And then they ask the scientists, they're like, so wait a minute. You work at the Wuhan respiratory coronavirus lab. How did this happen? And they're like, a pangolin kissed a turtle. The name of your lab. If you look at the name, I work at the coronavirus lab in Wuhan. Oh, because there's a coronavirus loose in Wuhan. How did that happen? Maybe a bat flew into the cloaca of a turkey and then it sneezed into my chili. There's been an outbreak of chocolatey goodness near Hershey, Pennsylvania. What do you think happened? Like, oh, I don't know. Maybe a steam shovel mated with a cocoa bean. Or it's the chocolate factory.
It's really funny that we've spent, again, probably, close to $1 billion investigating this whole thing, and nobody ever mentioned that the lab leak came from the Wuhan coronavirus lab.
Ever since Trump said it came from China, like, everyone just lost their mind.
Let's say China. 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 You go over to China. 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 You take China.
China.
China. I love them. China. 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 I have to have my China. China. China because China. 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 China now. China. China. You know, China.
I know China very well.
It's like at complete just mind virus all day.
It's funny though, no one ever said, they're always like a lab, but nobody ever said the name of the lab.
Well, it came from Wuhan, the Wuhan, China. The lab is literally called the Coronavirus Lab, Wuhan, and it's a giant building, and it's on the top moniker what it is, and they literally the Chinese military is using the lab. We know that, and there was a scientist who escaped the lab and said to the world, hey, this stuff is escaped. The virus is coming from here. He died mysteriously. And then we just stopped talking about that. Like, at the beginning. This was like in 2000. This is like...
2020.
2020. And, so the whole thing is... It's almost 100% sure. I don't know why it's less... This is another thing. Less racist to say it came from a wet lab. Like... Because they were like, oh, if you came from the scientific lab, therefore it must be derogatory towards Chinese people, as opposed to, oh, Chinese people eat weird animals, therefore it came from that place.
That's like almost like more suspect than like it didn't come from the lab, but someone ate a bat.
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
Got kind of
weird. Those bats taste really good. You can't stop yourself from eating just one. You gotta eat all the bats. So that's that. Women.
2 times 2 times 1.
2?
Which ocean is on the east side of the United States?
The east one?
Yeah. You're from New York, right?
Yeah. Oh, Pacific?
You guys know this.
I know this. I don't know this.
Pacific? No, I can't do the oceans. I don't do the oceans. Pacific.
What is the capital of the United States?
Stop! I knew he was gonna embarrass us.
I know. Wait. I don't even want to think because I don't want to sound dumb.
Well, just.
There's no capital of the United
literally,
States. Is there no capital?
Correct.
Was that right?
No.
Oh!
You guys are UCLA
we literally
students?
go to UCLA. It's, yeah.
What are the 3 Kardashian sisters' names?
Courtney, Kim, and Khloe. Khloe, Kim,
Courtney,
and Courtney. Yeah.
Bonus points for the brother?
Robert.
What?
Rob.
What are you gonna say about women?
After seeing that video, I was actually less surprised to find out a couple of those women went to UCLA, which goes back to my original theory of college being completely useless. And
it's a country club.
It's a country club.
Yeah, it's almost a brothel.
It's a country club and a brothel put together. Is what it is.
I don't know what's going on. There's almost going to be 70% women at colleges. And I don't know what they do there. They might as well just have sewing classes.
They don't know what
the
Pacific Ocean is, or what 2 + 2 × 1 is.
Maybe they should bring home ec to college. We might cut that. Okay.
But I mean, in my opinion, going back, just like and subscribe. Yeah. But I do think that it's like, why do college when you could just put everything for free on the internet? Like why will you go to college when it could just be live streamed one time by a professor? Everyone has use of the data. What do you need? What do you need to pay for aside from the country club brothel aspect of the college?
Yes, of course. Well, not only that, you're spending all your money or your parents' money, and it's almost not just college. Almost all education, besides the babysitting that happens like in the younger years, like from from kindergarten to 5th grade. But after that, pretty much everything can be done on some kind of video broadcasting network. Twitter's just started their own.
Yeah, we could just have one teacher broadcasting
all of 6th grade or all of 7th grade, all of high school.
Universal curriculum about transgender studies.
If people flip out, there could be other 6th grade things that are more specific to what their topics are, right? So they can really say what they want. So that's another thing. Here's a good one. What's a scam? The US dollar or is it crypto?
Crypto bros make money literally by making money, and they've made over $1 trillion out of thin air. They'll accuse the U.S. government of making money out of thin air. Maybe we do, but we're the U.S. government.
Because we had Congress talking about this. They're like, this big hoopla about like we need to regulate crypto again, right? And they're like, these people are just making up money and they're just printing themselves into millionaires and everything. And they're like, and the person's comment was, how is this not like the United States? And they're like, people think that we print up all this fake money, and then we just do.
Yeah.
We just, the modern monetary theory is just craziness.
Well, and that kind of goes in just straight into like the next video of the central bank tokens, because the central bank tokens, when they showed the guy getting his immediate deductions, and I was looking at it and I was like, wow, this is essentially just like how taxes work.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, for reference, if you make $100,000 a year in California, you actually only touch $71,000 a year. But if you're married, you get $82,000, which I don't understand why married people get an extra $10,000. What's that $10,000 for if you don't have kids?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. Like the idea, the assumption that you're gonna have kids because you're married is like an old assumption, which is almost like marriage itself. Which there's totally different things. Marriage is not kids. Kids. There's almost more people without marriages than with kids. Yeah. And they should be getting the deductions. Yeah, like the idea that, oh, you're first of all, marriage has like gotten out of control where people are like, oh, we need to give everybody marriage. What is marriage? It's nothing. Like everyone just goes, oh, we're together, and then oh, we're not. We're gonna get divorced. Like the divorce rate in Portugal is like 91%.
Yeah, but you know, but they're getting those tax deductions, you know, and there should be. I want a reverse tax where if you do get divorced, you have to pay a 50% annual tax.
Yeah.
You know, really.
Back to the tokens. The tokens is even more crazy than just your regular deductions. It's that your money can expire.
Yeah,
which is almost like a wealth tax in itself, where you're like, oh, we don't want you to have this money this long. Like, we're going to tax you, or a death tax, right?
Well, that would stimulate the economy. I mean, if you had to spend it, you got to go spend it. I don't know what
here's another thing that I don't understand. What is the economy? Oh, we got to stimulate the economy. Is the economy somebody else? Like, what about me? I want to have my money.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's the point. Is the government wants you to have nothing and be happy with it, and that's how they're, you know, that's how they're building towards it.
So, yeah, the total control of your life. Okay, trans women of color, the female.
Because of that, I've come out and been recognized as the first woman of color in the history of Delaware County Council. Now, I don't believe that they're going to give me any awards for that, but it's possible they may name some local park after me or something. We'll see what the future holds.
What's really brave about you is that you came out as a trans woman of color, and yet you have changed nothing about yourself physically. So you're just literally the exact same person, but at the same time, you're a woman of color.
I did take the step of changing my name. I used to go by Ryan, which would be Ryan, the male version, but now I'm using the name Ryan, but it's the female version.
Version of Ryan.
Ryan. I thought it was incredibly brave for coming out as a transgender woman of color. I thought that was one of the most amazing stories I've seen.
It's just the bravery alone of filming, you know, before June. By the way, June is coming up. It's going to be Rainbow Central. I didn't subscribe to this. Who made this up? Like, first of all, what is going on where just every day is something? Like, we're like, people were like, okay, Valentine's Day, that was made up. Then they're like, oh, this and that.
I had a good one at work this week. My work sent out an email and they're like, it's Workers' Mental Health Month, and it's our first time celebrating it. And I was like, somehow this email like being sent out that like we're recognizing Workers' Mental Health Month.
It starts like
we pay somebody, a woman who went to college, by the way.
Yes, of course.
To honor to send out an email about Workers' Mental Health Month.
Of course. What else would they be doing? It starts slow, right? It starts with like, okay, with real, you know, religious holidays. Then it slides into, okay, national holidays. Then it slides into, okay, we're just going to pick things at random like Valentine's Day and Cinco de Mayo, which they don't celebrate in Mexico, and we just celebrate it for no reason. Like, it's one small victory for France, or the loss of France, one war, which they just won the next one. Doesn't make any sense. And then it goes into, you know, history months and this and that, and it just never ends. And all of a sudden you're celebrating nonsense every Secretary Day, assistant to the Secretary Day, like
parking attendant.
Yeah, like it just never ends. Like Principal Appreciation Month, like it just never ends.
I'm just over here waiting for just one normal white guy day. That's all I really. That's really when you guys.
I just don't want any more days. Like just take them all back and just give me the original days.
Christmas, Easter, and 4th of July.
Just make them longer. Like just make the whole month of December off.
Yeah.
Like I don't need more days.
That gets offensive though at some point. You know, like you can't. The holidays get offensive, you know, and it's like.
Okay, UK, 40 years of the student loan. What do you think of this? They changed it from 30 years, so apparently you could just like wait 30 years and just get it forgiven.
The country is about to face the biggest change to English student finance in a decade.
New students, they will start repaying their student loans when they earn above £25,000. That's lower than the current threshold, which means you'll pay on the same income, you'll pay more back each year. The really big change is currently you stop repaying the loan after either you've paid it all off, which most don't, or 30 years. It will now be 40 years, which means for all intents and purposes, the vast majority of students or graduates will be repaying their loans for their entire working lives. It effectively becomes a form of graduate tax. But this is the stat that people need to understand. Sorry, glasses needed.
Yep.
Currently, on the current system, the state pays 44p in the pound and the student pays 56p in the pound on average. Mm-hmm. Under the new system, the state will pay 19p in the pound and the student or the graduate will pay 81p in the pound on average. Now, on my calculations, what this means is, in truth, many graduates will pay double under the new system what they do under the current system. We are basically moving money out of the taxpayer funding education, and the individual will contribute a lot more, which is what will work in practice as a 9% graduate tax above earnings of £25,000 for 40 years for most people.
Even I guess I don't understand what the idea of the time period is.
They have to pay. I think it comes out of like rather than in America.
Yeah.
You get your salary and then you have to pay on your student loan.
Yeah.
Here they take it out right up front, so like it's an immediate deduction. So it's essentially a tax at that point.
Right.
And then,
which it should be, by the way. You owe this money. Like, this is not a joke. This is not for fun. I know people in America are like, well, I can pay my student loan or I can go to Italy. Like, this is like optional idea. But, like, there it's more serious.
It should definitely affect your credit score in America. But they're moving up to, what did they say, 41%?
They changed it from 44%. You were going to have, it was the 44% was paid by the government, and now it's going to be 19%.
Yeah, and then you pick up the additional 81%.
You pick up the 81%. So it's a big increase.
Yeah.
For future college students.
But again, going back to my original idea of like, why are we paying so much for college when you could just broadcast it for free on the internet?
Yeah.
The book, I mean, the idea of college literature, it's like, dude, I go to Barnes & Noble and buy big, thick books for $25, but like somehow these college edition books are like $500-$600, and it's like, why would I could just read the book on the internet for free to people. I just don't understand the concept anymore. It's such a prehistoric way of educating people when you could just put everything online for free.
It's all about networking.
Brothel.
Yeah, the brothel aspect. Yeah. Anyways, so UK's changing their policy. What about these big cities crying? Okay.
Their opinion, strongly opposing the addition of migrants in their community.
I am just outraged. I'm outraged, and I don't understand why our community was chosen.
City representatives saying the old South Shore High School would not be a shelter, but one of 3 respite centers for the migrants to temporarily sleep, eat, and take a shower, starting with about 250 people taking up the building's first floor. This is a way for the city to get the current 300 migrants out of the police stations. Questions were asked, but answers hard to hear, interrupted by the upset crowd. Before the meeting, a small protest of South Shore neighbors demanding the energy put into the migrant issue be put into their neighborhoods.
It is a slap in the face that we as citizens of the United States of America do not have the resources and support, but you're going to bring people who are not citizens here in our community, in our buildings that we pay taxes for, that you took away from us. That is completely unacceptable. We are in a humanitarian crisis right now.
Only 500 immigrants too, which I walked through a sea of 500 tents.
500 immigrants sent to Chicago, which is the big cry fest, right? Even though the 5 million immigrants have came into the country illegally this year alone, which is Arizona, Texas, Oklahoma, and New Mexico. And it's just crazy for them. And then New York City, they got these migrants in the gymnasium of the school.
Yeah,
and the crybabies going on there. They're like, what are we going to do with these kids? They can't use the gymnasium. There's 100 migrants in here. And you're like, I almost feel like we should just keep sending them. Just send them.
Could you imagine going to elementary school and there's just a migrant camp in your gym and
they're regular normal regular people that speak Spanish. They're trying to pick up work. They're pick up work. They're like, hey kids, what your dad do? Is he need something fix at the house? So there's a lot of offers going on.
But it's crazy to see small cities. I really liked what that one lady said about just not selling your house and they can't come. I really like that idea of just not selling and hanging on.
Oh yeah, you got to be the last survivor. I think in this movie Gran Torino with Clint Eastwood, he wouldn't sell, and he was living in, I think it was Michigan, and everyone around him was from the Hmong Chinese area, and everyone around him was Chinese, and he wouldn't sell his house. So they were just commenting oh, this old guy won't sell. Why don't you just leave the neighborhood? All your people are gone. You just wouldn't sell. So I guess that's what's going to happen in Chicago, is these people are just going to try to hold on.
I mean, it was funny to be that upset over 500 immigrants. I mean, I can promise you there's slightly more than 500 that have come into the Los Angeles area.
Jesus. In California, you could be a cop while being a legal immigrant. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's just turned into such a... did the illegal immigrants, are they able to stay in these homeless shacks? Shacks?
There's a new policy they're trying to put through that they can get unemployment. It hasn't happened yet. They're trying to get it so they can get unemployment being an illegal resident. Getting paid
What other country in the world could I go to and just move there without being a citizen and just start getting unemployment? That'd be so nice. That'd be so cool. I'd move to any other country if I could just
It's crazy right now. Anyways, this has been a great time. This is the Last American Podcast.
Have a good night. Like and subscribe.